So I'm sure a lot of you have gone through the experience of being rejected from a role that you really desperately wanted and not knowing what to do after that, right? It's such a crushing experience. It can really be disheartening when you don't get a positive response from a company that you really want to work for. And I know it firsthand because I've been there and I've been through it. And in this video, I'm going to share with you what are the 5 key ways that I implemented after that rejection to get myself back into the market and make sure that I was still striving to be the best that I can be and carve out a career for myself. Hey everyone, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Bohlale Baile, and I really want to take a little bit of an off spin from the usual kind of tips around interviews and CVs video and focus really on some of the key tips that I want to share around how you deal with getting rejected from a particular company. And I'm going to use this opportunity today to really share with you what I did when I went through that. Most of you that follow me either on LinkedIn or on Instagram will have seen a post that I posted recently that really speaks to, geez, I can resonate with people that have gotten rejected from particular roles that they've wanted to be in. And I used the opportunity to share that because I think sometimes, people look at us as recruiters or people look at us as individuals that are in very high or senior roles within particular companies and think that maybe we've just had it easy or maybe we've just been lucky in life. And that's very far from the truth, right? In this particular post, I share my experience around how as a student, I was dead set on working for a management consulting company at the time that I just absolutely loved. They came onto our campus a couple of times during career fairs, and year after year, this was one of the companies that really resonated with me and I really desperately wanted to work for them. And so I made application after application. I was rejected in my 3rd year. In my final year, I applied again and still got rejected. And I was so frustrated. And I just thought to myself, I'm going to pick up the phone and understand, why did I get rejected? What am I doing incorrectly here? And so I did that. And the response that I got on the other end as she was looking through my application was, geez, is this what you call good marks? That is something that I had to be able to bounce back from, right? I was by no means an A student at the time. I was an average C student at best. And in my head, I was just studying for the sake of, well, my parents said I need to study, I need to get this degree. So as long as I'm passing, that should be okay, right? And yet, no, that's not okay. Very contrary to all the different advice that I give students today. And I give that advice because I know. I'm now on the other end where I've spent 10 plus years recruiting students for really major companies. And that has really set me up for understanding the psychology behind what makes an ideal candidate. But in this video, I'm not focusing on what makes an ideal candidate. I'm going to talk you through the 5 key things that I did to really help set up my career again. First thing I did was take opportunity for exposure, right? A lot of times we're gunning for the big roles, we're gunning for graduate programs, we're gunning for high paying roles. And what that does is sometimes make you overlook some key smaller opportunities. At this particular stage in my career, I didn't have a choice, right? I was in my 4th year and final year, and I then had to decide to look at things differently. I wasn't getting into the graduate program that I wanted to. And at the end of my undergrad degree, there was an email that went out from one of our professors to say, there's an opportunity to be a data capturer. They're looking for someone within the HR space. It's a part-time opportunity over the summer period, right? And so I thought, well, great, let me do something during the summer. Let me earn a little bit of income as well. Let me take on this opportunity because at this stage, I'm not getting into the grad program I want. So let me take opportunities to get exposure. So sometimes these small opportunities that come, data capturing was far from what I thought I wanted to do, right? But it was within the HR space. And I thought, well, I've studied this. Let me get some level of exposure. So I applied for the role and got the opportunity to spend my December holidays working as a data capturer for an IT consulting company. The second thing I did was really take that opportunity seriously. I think it's so important sometimes to make sure that we're coming into any small opportunity with the right attitude, right? I made sure that I was there on time every day, that I was the last one to leave. I made sure that I was doing my data capturing role really, really well. And I made sure that, in that time, I was really building relationships with key people within the space that I worked with to learn as much as I could about the role that they had hired me for. So never underestimate the power of a small opportunity, because the way you approach it and the attitude that you take with you as you go through that opportunity will really make a difference. And let me tell you how. Remember that one of the key things as a graduate is that you have absolutely no experience, right? So if you've got no experience to put onto your CV, make sure that any small opportunity that's been given to you, you're using that to fill your CV with exposure, right? So even though I was hired as a data capturer, I thought to myself, why don't I extend myself to other areas within HR where they need assistance, to make sure that I'm getting as much exposure as possible, right? By being able to get some level of exposure, as I now build my CV, I'm able to say, I was a data capturer, but I was also exposed to this and that and that and that, right? So you're almost building your CV by making sure that you are going over and above the role that's been given to you. So many people look at small opportunities and think, I'm just gonna buy time and I'm just gonna make money for the summer. And they forget the value of that small opportunity, the value of being able to do more, the value of being able to fill up your CV, the value of being able to gain more exposure so that you're understanding the industry that you've applied for, so that you're understanding holistically what it is that people in your department actually do. So never forget that this is really always such an important opportunity for a graduate. If you've got a part-time job at any point in time as you are studying, make sure that you are going over and above, that you're getting the relevant exposure, and also you're able to build your CV. Now, I'm sure you're asking, how do you go about doing that, right? If you're hired for a data capturer role, how do you go about getting exposure in other things that are not part of why you're hired? Well, you make sure that in the time that you are working there, that you ask questions, right? Stay curious. The more curious you are, the more you learn and the quicker that you learn. So what I did is made sure that I did my data capturing role so well. And when I was done with those tasks, I didn't then sign off and say, okay, well, I guess I'm done early. I guess I can leave early. No, I used the rest of the opportunity to go to someone else within the team and say, hey, what is it that you're working on? What part of the department do you run, or what part of the department are you servicing, right? People generally, especially when you're a graduate, people generally are very happy to kind of explain to you what it is they do, to share more about their role and the kind of work that they are exposed to and the kind of impact that their work has on the company. And so all you need to do is ask. All you need to do is stay curious. And by doing that, I got exposed to how you prep for a BEE scorecard, right? I also started getting exposure to the recruitment aspect of things within HR. I made sure to also ask one of the recruiters that was in the HR space at the time, can I sit in and listen to you do a telephonic interview? Can I listen to you doing a reference on someone, And he was like, sure, when you've got time or during lunch tomorrow, come through. I've got 2 or 3 telephonic interviews that are set up. Come through and listen. And that's how you learn, guys. That's how you go about making sure that you are gaining as much exposure as possible. And that for me was a game changer. And the final thing that was really important for me is how I made sure that I left a positive impression about myself with the company. So much so that towards the end of my 2 or 3 month contract at the time, they were saying to me, Buhlali, don't you want to stay and continue working full time, and then you can go and study part time, right? At the time, I then said to them, I'd really love to just finish off my honors and do it full time. So I went back to university full time and made sure that I was going to smash that year. It was one of the most challenging years for me at university, because in honors, they just kind of let you be. There's less guidance, there's a lot of research, there's a lot of group work, a lot of presentations, and you're kind of constantly on the go from that perspective. But it being my most challenging year, I made sure to rise to the occasion. So I made sure that I finished really, really strong in my final and honors year. And at the end of that year, funny enough, I got a call back from the recruiter that I was working with to do the telephonic interviews and the referencing. And he called me to say, hey, Buhlali, we've given you a year now. You've studied your honors. I'm sure now you're available to come back and work, right? And that's that's literally how I started my career. So yes, I didn't get into my dream job, but the little opportunity that I got, I made sure to maximize that opportunity. So when an opportunity came about in the recruitment space, I was the first person this guy thought about, right? Because he had seen firsthand how much I was willing to learn and to grow, how curious I was, and how much I spent time really just understanding all the different facets of HR. And I started off my following year working as a recruitment consultant for the company. And this was massive for me. This was such a huge vote of confidence for my ability, because it really just taught me that sometimes you don't necessarily get what you want, but whatever opportunity is given to you, how are you making use of that opportunity? And look at how this opened doors. You know, after 3 months of working as an intern, coming back as a recruitment consultant is how I started my career. So guys, that's really how I bounced back from being rejected in the particular company that I wanted to work for. These are some of the things I did with the smaller opportunities that were given to me. And ever since then, I've then continued to use the same principles with every single role that I go into. And I promise you, time and time again, it's been so successful for me. And so I really want you guys to just think about all of those different aspects that I spoke about, and make sure that you put yourself out there. Just get exposure. Understand why it's important for you to get exposure. Understand that you're building your CV, and make sure that you're building a lasting positive reputation, right? Everywhere you go, make sure people have loved working with you. Make sure you've brought about the right attitude to your work. Make sure where possible, you're getting involved in other aspects of the department that you work in. Stay curious all the time. So I really hope that it helps you guys understand what it took for me to get to where I am at this point in time, particularly after experiencing a massive setback like I did in my undergrad years. And let me know in the comments below, which of the 5 items that I've spoken about have you really struggled with in terms of just showing up at the respective companies that you've worked for, the respective opportunities you've worked for. I'd really be keen to understand what that pain point is for you. And hopefully in future, I'll be able to do videos that really will just tackle some of those key aspects in more detail to really help you unpack and really help you see the psychology behind it. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in once again. If you've loved the video and it's really been helpful for you, make sure that you hit that like button, that you hit the subscribe button, and that you're really sharing it with more people that could benefit from understanding how to come back from a setback.